Brokers Alliance and the National Insurance Clearinghouse present the Business Insurance Zone, a Bravo video event. Broadcasting in HD 1080p on Vimeo, YouTube, the Insurance Newsnet, Agent Navigator, BrokersAlliance.com, and on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and the Insurance Forum. And now your host, the whiz of the biz, Steve Savant. Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that spotlights insurance in your practice, keeps you up to speed on insurance news and products, features insurance strategies from top advisors. Get in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone. Well, welcome everyone, and our email address on the show is, of course, thebiz@brokersalliance.com. You can call 1-800-290-7226. Extension 147 for any questions or quotes on life insurance, annuities, DI, LTC, and group pension. And remember, I'm not a tax or legal advisor, so before going forward with anything you hear on the show today, always check in with your CPA and attorney. And if you're a registered rep, FINRA registered rep, I should say, you need to talk to your compliance officer before moving forward with any of our strategies. Of course, with me today on our show is Eric Palmer, National Director of Annuities, although I think he's way more than an annuity. I should say, I should really redo your title right here, live in front of our 250,000 advisor audience. And welcome to the show, Eric. And Eric, I'm loving your title.
Yeah.
No Fear Planning is the title of the show.
Planning.
I thought it was going to be No Fear Estate Planning, but now you're saying we don't care. It's not just estate.
It's not just estate. It's
Right.
No Fear Planning. And estate's kind of a word that's misused quite often. A lot of times we think of estate as this massive castle on the top of a hill with a driveway that goes about 2.5 miles, and it's really not meant to be that at all. So I just say planning because at the end of the day, we're talking about a very broad demographic here.
Well, I have to say, there is a lot of phobia out here
Right.
on the issue of planning, period. And it doesn't matter if it's retirement planning, business succession planning, estate planning. I mean, there's a lot of apprehension. We have
Absolutely.
people that are we have producers that are product sales, producers. We have people that are high-end registered investment advisors that do asset allocation.
Right.
But when you talk about planning, that word planning, so there's a lot of phobia and fear. So how did we come up with this No Fear? And I hope we're not being sued by who.
Well, No Fear Planning is kind of came about because we find most often that when you get into some form of estate planning or retirement planning, there's going to be some documentation needed at some point along the way. Typically, we find the most common one being the revocable living trust, but there's a lot of different documents out there. And so initially, when advisors or insurance producers out there want to engage in this practice, they have to make an allegiance with an attorney or a CPA firm or a combination of both to be able to deliver that level of service. So one of the number one things that we come across is some agents that are disenfranchised by the concept because there's no real reciprocation going on there most often when you make a relationship with attorneys. So we dabbled a little bit in that, and we tried to connect our producers with attorneys or CPAs, and then again, most often came to the result that you never really got anything in return. It doesn't work.
I got to tell you, I've been in this thing almost 30 years. When was the last time I got reciprocity from any of the fiduciary market?
Right.
Hardly ever you get any kickback on what you gave them all these cases,
Right.
and what do you get back in return? But the other thing that I just saw the other day, I looked at 3 business succession plannings. They were all on life buyouts, and not one of them had a doc.
Ugh.
No buy sell, no cross purchase, no stock redemption, no wait and see trust.
Right.
It just had life insurance contracts owned by each partner
Individually.
but there was no docs. Now, I don't know the stats on this, but I'm guessing that it's got to be awfully high just on that area of business succession.
Right.
There is just none.
Sure.
Then you have the extreme where we talk about, well, why would I do estate planning? Especially now they have $5 million unified credit.
Right.
Why do we even care anymore? But we found out when we had Dr. Bassi on here, one of the lead attorneys in the United States, he said everybody completely forgot about the state revenue issue on this.
It could vary by state. I think the example he gave is in Illinois. It was under $500,000, I believe, or something under $1 million.
Really
so it was really, really low. So despite the fact that the federal numbers come in at 5 million, 10 million household, it has nothing to do with the state numbers. It will be a game changer for a lot of families in a lot of different states. So these documents are extremely important. Now, as a salesperson, I'm a little bit of a control freak. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I like to maintain.
I have noticed you have certain pathologies, Eric.
A little bit, and I like to maintain control, especially when I'm dealing with one of my own clients and trying to put together either a retirement or estate plan. And so, again, a lot of times the problem, if you will, with these relationships that you need to build to get these documents done is that you somewhat lose control of the process.
Right.
Once it's in the attorney's hands, it's their timeline, not yours. And what they do with your client is between them and your client. And so you kind of get out of the picture a little bit. And so, you know, again, another problem that we noticed with the way the planning goes. And so the no fear title really came from, you know, Brokers Alliance. We really sat down and we made some partnerships to try to identify a way to do this easy, to make it simple, and to take the fear out of introducing estate planning into your practice. Because at the end of the day, what we have to remember is, if you're just an insurance agent to somebody, then your name is only on that business card attached to a policy in a shoebox in a closet. You know, if you're somebody's planner, you're actually a part of all the different processes that go along with retirement planning, estate planning, and anything else in combination of.
So this could
and that
actually,
puts you out in front.
That could be a defensive posture for a person to be a quarterback of his client's financial concerns. So he's managing the docs we're talking about.
Right.
He's doing all the insurance, the investments, the property casualty, everything about the client's finances.
Right. Whatever they're licensed to do. And say, for instance, you're not a FINRA licensed individual and your client's asking you about stocks and trading. At least they're asking you first. You control the relationship, you control the client, and you can bring in any other individuals to help out if there's something that you can't handle yourself. So again, it puts you as the point person. It makes the client a long-term client. And today, with the way marketing is and the expense that marketing carries, I think it's important to make sure our clients stick around for a very long time.
Well, I like the idea of no fear planning, because I want all of our producers to be able to play with the big boys across the board.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to feel apprehensive about engaging in obvious issues when they come across business succession, retirement planning, or estate planning. So I have a new acronym for you, Eric. I know you're always waiting with bated breath when I come up with this. But my no fear planning is FEAR, false evidences appearing real. I don't want you to be uptight, because really we've taken out all the real apprehension, the bad boy phobia issues, and now it's fear, false evidence. There's no more reason to be uptight about it. We've actually taken the mystique and the fear and the phobia out of it.
Right.
So talk a little bit about, how did we even get involved in this?
Well, you know, we started looking around for different ways, and of course, Brokers Alliance is a big supporter of technology. Any way we can implement technology into a process, we find that it creates a more efficient way to do business. And a lot of the fear, again, with this whole process of estate planning is, you know, I don't have time to go educate myself for 2 years, get all the acronyms next to my name, and be able to discuss this stuff. And so we thought, well, let's really go start looking for some alternatives out there. We came across a company that we've actually been doing business with for a number of years, and they've discovered a way to basically build a document producing entity online. They've established a national network of attorneys that all the attorneys are doing is reviewing the documents throughout the process as you go, but they're just simply reviewing and signing off. They're not engaging with the client more than just a quick interview.
So there's no billable hours
No
here?
billable hours, nothing crazy. The client never leaves your web, if you will. And so we really got in bed with this company and started looking at new ways to position this in our marketplace. And on the second half of the show, we're actually going to bring on their expert, Don Dacey. And Don has really done a great job in helping with the training, the transition to start offering estate planning into your practice. And I think you're going to find he's got some phenomenal things.
Well, I like the idea, because we are, and I don't mean to toot our own horn here, but we are probably the lead media and technology distribution wholesaler in the United States. I don't know of anybody playing at the same league we are. Now we figured out a way to systematize this, really, to do a turnkey bundled approach with ITS.
Absolutely. The number one thing that you struggle with as an advisor is seeing more clients. And you have to spend time to see clients. You have to spend money to see clients. And so we want to take all the problems and the headaches and the processes that take a lot of time out of the picture, use technology and leverage it to its max, and be able to turn around estate planning and the benefits of estate planning within a quick, easy atmosphere. And we've really succeeded with that with the No Fear Planning System. One thing I want to comment on that I think is important to note is that when you're doing estate planning, the number one thing that's the result at the end. You know, why did you do this in the first place? Your client got a document out of it, it secured their estate, but what do you get as the advisor? And I think it's important to note, you get a free look at everything that the client has. When you fund these documents, when you retitle their assets, you're getting a look at everything that your client has. You get a great opportunity to make suggestions and comments about their life insurance, their long-term care, their annuities, their retirement. I mean, the whole gamut. So really, by introducing estate planning into your practice, you are rounding out your practice. And when I always ask the question, are you going to be here 5 years from now in this industry? Any individual that's working with estate planning can look you in the eye and say, absolutely. In fact, my business is growing by 25% a year. It's because they're introducing this type of a concept and doing it with the technology and the easy process that we've created.
Well, I want to really just underscore this issue of we have a present day 5 million, right, unified credit. We are 18 months out. That could all change.
Right.
With trillions in debt, it's probably easier to get money from dead people than it is from tax income, people paying income taxes from a political point of view. So I don't know how long we're going to be sitting at 5 million apiece. That could all change. But forget that. Even if that wasn't true, the estate, as we've talked about, some of the states in the union, and we have a complete list of their complete unified credit that they use per state, and there are so many states under 1 million. I was shocked.
Here's a statistic for you. Lawyers.com released in February 2010 that only 35% of adult Americans have a will, and 21% of those have a trust. That means nearly 80% of Americans do not have a trust document in place, right? So 18 months from now, what's going to happen to those individuals? Are they prepared for what the change is going to bring? Are they prepared for those state level numbers that we were just talking about? And think about the demographic here. Again, we're not talking about the affluent clients. We're talking about the couple in their 30s that just had a baby. They just bought a home. We're talking about people in their mid 40s and 50s still saving for retirement. They got 3 kids. Kids are in college. There's so many different scenarios that need these types of documents and the true planning process implemented that there's really a lot of opportunity out there, and I think that it's endless at this point.
Yeah, when I think about everybody that doesn't have a will, if you're saying that's a will, everybody, that's all going through probate.
Right.
So it's a real heads up. We figured out a way to partner and outsource with ITS. When we come back from the break, we're going to have Don on. He's going to explain a lot of this, really put us on the map and help you expand your practice and get business you normally wouldn't get. When we come back, remember, you can always write us at thebiz@brokersalliance.com and our 800 number, 1-800-290-7226. And the extension we're using for this show is
135.
So when we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Don Daisy right from ITS, and we'll be able to position your practice as a major player in this field when we come back from this break. Steve Savant here. For years, I've heard that less than 2% of all term life insurance ends in a claim. That's not many, and clients had to die to receive the benefits. That's the old term insurance. Now start selling the new term insurance. The term insurance that covers your client through a chronic illness, a catastrophic event, or a terminal diagnosis, and pays their monthly premium during extended periods of unemployment. What term life insurance can do all that? Western Reserve Alliance Advantage Term with living benefits. No other term insurance product bundles so many solutions to life's unexpected problems. And all in one policy. So for more information, call Brokers Alliance 1-800-290-7226. Stop selling the old term. Start selling the new. Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone, the talk show that focuses on insurance in your practice. I'm Steve Savant, your host, financial color commentator, and interviewer extraordinaire. We're talking about no-fear planning, estate planning, retirement planning, business succession planning, any other kind of financial planning. We're talking about no fear because we know we have producers out there that have apprehension about fear, about planning, about doing what they think is the tough document stuff that really should be attorneys. And of course, we're not an attorney or a CPA. Might as well get that out of the way on the disclaimer. And if you have any questions, don't always remember to talk to your CPA or attorney before moving forward with anything we suggest. And if you're a FINRA registered rep, always check in with your broker-dealer compliance department just to make sure you're square with that. And remember, all our videos can be seen on Vimeo, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, we are just doing it all today, aren't we? And now we're even on television with some of our ads. I can't believe we've even went this far. But with me today, and of course we had Eric on the first part talking about our relationship with ITS, Integrated Trust Systems, and Don Daisy here's with us today, and CLU, CHFC, and you're also the trainer for ITS. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Don, I'm talking about, when I'm looking about this, I mean, you have serious time in our business. And I wonder what happened here. You know, you were a producer all this time, and then you got into this really bundled, I would call it, packaged idea called ITS. How did this all start?
Oh, I had been in the business for about 15, 16 years, and met a fella, and he introduced me to actually how revocable trusts work. And I met another fella actually who actually did the documents, and I had an appointment one time with a client, and the client said, geez, I think I need to do a trust. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, I can. And I did it, and I had no idea what I was doing. But what I found out was really interesting, and that was that it was a whole different approach, a whole different atmosphere with the client, because they were very open to me asking them questions about their assets, because it was all part of the process. And from that, I pursued it with a little bit more vigor, and found that when I learned how to set up the plan and ask the right kind of questions, I got very positive response from my clients. And from that, as I say, the rest is history. I started to do this on a more full-time basis, and started with Integrated Trust Systems back in 1989. And since that time, have been actively working in the area of estate planning with other financial advisors and insurance reps.
Well, I really like this because most of us, I mean, I love planning, but I'm not really a good doc person, and I don't know if I have really good relationships with attorneys out there, and I don't know if I'm going to get any kind of reciprocity back from them for me giving them business. Here I have a packaged idea, a bundled system approach, and now I can feel a little bit more confident. That's the thing that I think you're bringing to the table is I can actually use your data collectors, the information that you have. And by the way, just a little side note, you can walk out and look at our landing page on this at www.nofearplanning.com and pick up a lot of this information. Now, when you got into this, I mean, you're a CLU CHFC, and you've been a trainer for a long time. When you're introducing people into this system, what's the #1 thing in a boot camp scenario that you have to address with a producer? You know, what do I have to really know first off? What are you going to say to them? What are you going to tell them, Tom?
You know, I think Eric's comment earlier about no fear is really the key thing. What we have found is that a lot of individuals, reps, and financial advisors, when they first start doing this, the biggest thing they have to overcome is they think that this is complicated. And what we've done over the years is we've taken that and really made it easy, because we brought it down into some very simple steps that the advisor has to do. And basically, if the advisor follows the steps, it's like basically 5 steps. And essentially, let me just real quickly review those. One, you know, the planner has to start a conversation about what is estate planning, then collect data. We've got a questionnaire for that. Submit the data for the creation of the documents, review and sign the documents, and then finally assist the client to fund the trust. It's
one question though, Don. Now we have attorneys looking at this, right? We're not doing this.
Well, that's correct.
Right,
because
we're not doing this.
That's exactly right. The system that we've created follows what we call a legal protocol. And what happens is when the initial data is submitted, through the system, which we call the ITS platform, there is typically an attorney that reviews that and then contacts the client, creates an attorney-client relationship.
Well, I like that because really that's saving a lot of billable hours by doing a lot of the front-end clerical issues and admin issues way up front.
Right.
And it gives you kind of your segue into it. Well, you know, I'm not used to doing planning like this. Now I have kind of a ease into this. Right. It sounds like a pretty good protocol. And again, that landing page, if you hop out there, you can pull down some of this information you were talking about.
That's exactly right. And there's actually a lot of times reps will say, well, you know, how do I start the process? And we've created, about a year or so ago, what we call the 1-minute presentation, and it's available. And what it basically is, it's just real quickly, if a rep is not quite sure how to start a conversation about estate planning, we simply say, whatever you're doing, in other words, if you've talked to a client about an annuity or something like that, when that process is over, just simply say, oh, you know, like Columbo, by the way, I have one question. Do you have an estate plan? By that I mean, do you have a will or trust? And then you simply say, I can explain that, how that works, but I need 1 minute. Can we do it now, or would you like to set an appointment? Most clients obviously will say, well, go ahead and tell me right now. And then you just go right into the presentation. And again, that is available, and it only takes literally a minute to explain a basic overview of how the estate planning process works, and then from that they can move on to going to the website and collecting the information.
So I have this scripted engagement, client engagement conversation that you can read right off that, and that's easy to understand. And I like it because it gets the client thinking about the issues. I mean, without a will, as Eric said in the first segment, without a will, I'm going to probate. I have no direct. The state's going to make the call.
Well, the other thing it really does, and you guys were talking on the first segment about this, is a lot of times when an insurance rep or financial advisor thinks about the estate planning process, and you mentioned it, Steve, you think about the buy-sell or the big estate, but in reality, when you talk about this from the point of view of what I just mentioned in the 1 minute presentation, what the client gets to see is that estate planning is for everybody. In other words, everybody wants to make sure, as an example, that their assets go to who they want, when they want, how they want. I mean, think about it. It's the bottom line. It doesn't make any difference whether you have $5 million or $500,000. And that's what the system allows the rep to do. It allows them to get in front of a client and see those assets under very favorable circumstances. It's from that this has become an excessively great tool, because they can say, oh, geez, I see you have this asset or this, or maybe you should have insurance here or something like that. So it's a great opportunity for the rep to get in there, see the assets, and make suggestions about other things that they can do.
Now, when you're looking at this program, and I mean, when we go out to this site, which is our landing page for this, it's again www.nofearplanning.com. We have the data collectors out there, and when we resubmit this is going direct into ITS, right, if I'm understanding, and then by the time we've inputted and done the data, then it's turned over for, if I'm hearing you correctly, the steps, reviewed by an attorney, who then brings his relationship into the client. And the big thing I like about this, as Eric said in the first place, because this is a big issue with us, our pathology as an agent is I don't want to lose control.
Right.
I don't want to, if this guy goes out and I've lost control. But this is we really quarantined the relationship so that the person who's bringing this to the table, our producer, is still the quarterback of his client's financial concerns.
That's exactly right, because the system is designed so that what you just said is exactly what happens. Not only does the rep is the quarterback, but in the process of being the quarterback, the rep is going to get to see, because part of the process is the rep needs to see all those assets, okay? And a lot of times reps will say, well, some of the reps that you might have might be more like financial planner guys, and they might say, well, I get to see all these assets. But we have actually had reps over the past 20 years who've worked with us that said, I have not seen certain assets until I actually did the estate plan, because they fully disclose everything. So it's a great tool, again, to see those assets, and then the rep can obviously make the appropriate suggestions.
Well, one of the, Eric gave me a story that we had, one of our, I always like real stories from Brokers Alliance, and I'm looking at this rep who really did this program, never really did anything big in this area. He was just a regular producer, and he did this plan from turnkey to turnkey, and that was worth $54,000 in compensation. And when I think about $54,000, that could be a guy's a year or a half a year, And he did not. He was so surprised by how the system actually shepherded him through the whole process.
Well, that's very true. And this particular rep, I happen to know who he is, actually, and this is a thing I want to say here, he actually had been using the system for a period of time, so he was really good, he was really comfortable, and he had it like one of his tools, okay? So that when that client came along, what it turned out to be actually was a second marriage situation where the wife had a lot of money, so they had to do a good-sized insurance policy for the estate taxes, is really what it was. That was certainly a real pleasant surprise. But the point I'm trying to make here is he had the confidence to do it. The key thing here is this is a tool that if reps will start using it, it's another tool, another way to see assets and make money.
Well, I love prefabricated sales tracks to run on. I mean, I just like to get on a track and run it. And most of the time, we have found, Don, in this scenario is if you'll stay to formula,
Right.
And you won't break formula. You'll stay on the track from the beginning to the end. You're going to get that. You're going to have this down, not only in your own ability to be conversant on it, but actually your client will track with you, because you're hitting bullet points that a regular retail client is really going to understand. And here's the best part: on the first pass.
Right. That's exactly.
I love that.
Right. Right.
Well, talk a little bit about, when I'm looking at the presentation, in fact, we're going to have you come back and just do this whole thing in front of we'll have to do a whole other show on this. But when you're trying to explain to an agent, right, we have total control of the attorney involved.
Right.
We have total control of what's going on. You're not losing any of your fiduciary quarterbacking responsibilities. Right. And I think that's a big issue for trust for our producers listening to the show. But Don, what would be one of the big things you'd think from a close, if you were going to close today and say, this is test me, try me out, how would I do that?
Well, actually, I want to say this. We've actually just recently introduced what we call the third generation of estate planning. What this means is that over these last 20 years, we've finally developed a technology. We got it to such a level that we can show a rep, and again, this is for a large percentage of their clients, basically single clients, married clients, clients who have as their ultimate objective to make sure their assets are going to go equally to their beneficiaries, which is a lot of clients, quite frankly.
The vast majority.
It is. It's the vast majority. We have a special program that shows them how they can do the whole process in about 1 hour from beginning to end, and it's really cool.
Now that's turnkey. Don, we're going to have you back. I wish we had more time to talk about it. You remember, you can contact me on the show at thebiz@brokersalliance.com or call us on our toll-free at 1-290-7226, and especially on this issue, extension 135. And remember to hop out on our website at www.brokersalliance.com or our landing page, nofearplanning.com. I love that.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Savant. You've been listening to the Business Insurance Zone. Well, that's the buzz on the biz today. You're in the zone, the Business Insurance Zone. This has been a Bravo video event of the National Insurance Clearinghouse and Brokers Alliance, one of the largest distributors of insurance products and services to a nationwide network of insurance professionals. You can contact Brokers Alliance at brokersalliance.com or 1-800-290-7226.